Page number 88. Number 3. Stepped in the airport. As the kite stepped in the aircraft, he looked back at the historical Manitarihi city of Delhi. He had fought for Pakistan there and had won. He said that it was the last time he would be looking at Delhi. When the engines of the aircraft started, he said that is the end of it. Number 4. Business in the airport. The air journey from Delhi to Karachi lasted for 4 hours. Quaid-e-Azam did not waste his time. First, he ate a basket luncheon and then disposed of government papers. He read newspapers. He read the long account of his own achievements, Mane Kamyabiyan, which was given in the newspapers. He remained serious, Mane Sanjida, and calm throughout his journey. There was no sign, Mane Alamat, of emotions, Mane Jazbat, on his face. Only once he offered some newspapers to Lieutenant Rabbani and said, "Would you like to read those?" Number 5. Landing of aircraft. As soon as the aircraft landed at Karachi, the people raised slogans, Mane Nare, Pakistan Zindabad. The Qaid was received by a vast majority of people. Question number 3. What do you know about the flight of Quaid-e-Azam into Karachi and his stay till the eve of independence? Answer. Number 1. Flight of Quaid-e-Azam. Quaid-e-Azam reached Karachi on the 7th August 1947 by Silver White Dakota. He was wearing a white sherwani along with a white pajama when he saw a crowd of people at the airport, Mane Hawai Adda. He felt satisfied. All the people were crying, Pakistan Zindabad. Pakistan. Page number 89. Zindabad. He seemed resolute, Mane Ba-Azam, and solitary. He handed over the papers to his ADC. His two old associates, Mrs. Fatma Bai and Nanji Jafar, had also come to greet Mane Khush Amdeed Karna him. When Quaid-e-Azam reached Government House, he took round and gave directions to his staff. He reserved a wing for himself and his sister's residence, Mane Rehaish, and a room for VIPs. The Qaid did not like delaying tactics. He asked one of his staff to install a radio immediately, Mane Foreign. There were only a few desks and other things, but within a short period, new desks, chairs, pens, and other things were provided and put in their places. Number 2. Building of White Hall. Typewriters began to clatter, Mane Khat Khat Karna. Telephones began to work. Everything was being done with vigor and zeal, Mane Josh, within a short time. The new nation built up her White Hall. Side by side with this work, the great Quaid-e-Azam was writing his address to the Constituent Assembly of Pakistan, which was to be delivered on 11th August 1947. It proved a marvelous and thought-provoking address. Number 3. Government property. Quaid-e-Azam was very careful about government property. While inspecting the government house, he came to know that many books of the library were taken away by the governor of Sindh, and a set had been taken by the military secretary to the government of Punjab. The Qaid ordered to get these books back. Page number 90. Question number 4. You will find that in the course of time, Hindus would cease to be Hindus and Muslims would cease to be Muslims, not in the religious sense because that is the personal faith of each individual, but in the political sense as citizens of the state. Page number 127. This sentence of Quaid-e-Azam has been taken from Flight into Karachi, a chapter from the book Jinnah, Creator of Pakistan by Hector Bolitho. On the basis of this chapter, give a detailed account of the kind of political system, constitution and government that Mr. Jinnah wanted for Pakistan. Answer. Number 1. Political system. Quaid-e-Azam wanted the political system which was introduced Mane Mutarif Karana by the Holy Prophet 1400 years age. In this political system, all men were equal, the believers and the non-believers. The caliph and the ordinary citizen were equal in the eyes of law. Nobody enjoyed any special right. The head of the state, that is, caliph, was elected by an advisory body, Mane Mushawarati Jamaat. It consisted of those people who were God-fearing. All the citizens enjoying enjoyed equal political, social, economic, religions and cultural माने सकाफती right. The Muslims paid zakat and the non-Muslims jizya. Quaid-e-Azam believed that Hindus would cease to be Hindu and Muslims would cease to be Muslims in the state of Pakistan. They would forget their differences and live peacefully as the citizens of Pakistan. They all would work. Page number 91. For the development of the state, the Hindus and Muslims would enjoy equal rights in the state of Pakistan. Number 2. Constitution. Jinnah wanted to have a constitution based on the teachings of the Holy Quran and Sunnah. In this constitution, sovereignty would rest with Allah. The rulers would enjoy the delegated, mane, di hui, powers who would be bound to fulfill the will of Allah. No law would be made against the teachings of Islam. All the citizens of the state would be treated equally. State would be a welfare state. Addressing the Bar Association in Karachi, the Quaid-e-Azam said that it is wrong to say that the Constitution of Pakistan would not be based on Islamic Sharia. Those who say so are liars, mane, jhoote. We would act upon Islamic principles in our life in the same way as it was acted upon 1300 years ago. On another occasion, Mane Mauqa, he said that the Constitution of Pakistan would be based on Islamic Sharia. Islamic laws are as practicable mane qabile amal today as these were 1300 years before. Once Quaid-e-Azam addressed the officers of government of Pakistan, he said that the Constitution of Pakistan would be a democratic one. It would consist mane mushtamil hona of the basic principles of Islam. Islam has taught us the lesson of democracy. Number 3. Government. Quaid-e-Azam wanted Islamic and democratic government. Allah would be a sovereign power. The head of the state would enjoy delegated powers. It would be his duty to safeguard, mane tahaffuz karna, the life and property of the people. Page number 92. The head of the state would be the head of the executive, mane intizamiya. The judiciary would be independent and honest. The Majlis-e-Shura or the elected representatives of the people would make laws. These laws would be made in the light of the teachings of Islam. Non-Muslims would also have the right to vote. In short, the Quaid-e-Azam wanted the government and people of Pakistan should adopt the Islamic way of life. Chapter number 10. The Death of a Great Man. Urdu Tarjuma. साहिबजादा अब्दुल कयूम खान बहुत दूर अंदेश और ज़हीन थे. उन्होंने गोल मेज़ कॉन्फ्रेंस, दिल्ली और दीगर मकामात पर मुसलमानों की नुमाइंदगी की. इन्होंने सर जॉर्ज रोज़ केबल के साथ मिलकर इस्लामिया कॉलेज की बुनियाद रखी. वो सूबा सरहद के मुसलमानों के बहुत बही ख्वाह थे. तदब्बुर, मुस्तकिल मिजाजी और फ़हम व फ़रास्त में इनका कोई सानी ना था. सूबा सरहद में इस्लाहात इन्हीं की कोशिश का नतीजा थी. नंबर 1. खालिद कुरैशी की राय. खालिद कुरैशी ने नवाब साहब की इल्मी खदमात पर रोशनी डालते हुए फरमाया कि वो सरहद के सरसैयद थे. इन्होंने इस्लामिया कॉलेज की बुनियाद रखी. ये कॉलेज इस जगह तामीर किया गया है जहाँ किसी ज़माने में बदुओं की यूनिवर्सिटी थी. हमदर्दी का जज्बा इनमें कूट कूट कर भरा था. पठानों से इन्हें वालेहाना लगाव था. वो एक वसीउल कल्ब इंसान थे. वो बड़े मेहमान नवाज थे. नादार और मुफलिस तलबा की इमदाद करते थे. शाम के वक्त अक्सर कॉलेज तशरीफ़ लाया करते थे. नंबर 2. अंग्रेज़ प्रिंसिपल की राय. R.L. होल्ड्स रूथ जो कॉलेज के प्रिंसिपल थे फरमाते हैं कि मैं चंद अहबाब के साथ 9 दिसंबर 1937 को नवाब साहब से मिलने गया और कॉलेज की सिल्वर जुबली के मुतालिक बातें करना चाहता था. नवाब साहब तंदुरुस्त और तवाना दिखाई देते थे. ये गुफ्तगू नहायत खुशगवार माहौल में हुई, लेकिन मेरे सामने ही उनकी तबीयत ख़राब हो गई और वो बेहोश हो गए. अगले दिन मालूम हुआ कि नवाब साहब का इंतकाल हो गया है. पेज नंबर 93. नवाब साहब एक गरीब ख़ानदान से ताल्लुक़ रखते थे. मुलाजमत का आगाज़ नायब तहसीलदारी से किया और तरक्की करते करते पॉलिटिकल एजेंट के अहदे पर फाइज हो गए. इनके सियासी नज़रियात ख्वाह कुछ भी हों, इनकी इल्मी खदमात से इनकार नहीं. यह हकीकत है कि वो सूबा सरहद की फलाह व बहबूद के लिए हर वक्त मुस्तैद और कमर बस्ता नज़र आते थे. उनकी ख्वाहिश थी कि कॉलेज तरक्की करके यूनिवर्सिटी बन जाए. नंबर 3, बशीरुद्दीन की राय। बशीरुद्दीन कहते हैं कि नवाब साहब कॉलेज की देखभाल अपनी औलाद की तरह करते थे। वो कॉलेज की तकरीबात और सरगर्मियों में अक्सर हिस्सा लेते थे। वो तलबा में मेल जोल रखते थे और शाम को अक्सर कॉलेज तशरीफ़ लाते थे। कॉलेज के हर बड़े जलसे में इनकी शिरकत लाजमी थी। कभी कभी छोटे इजलास में भी शिरकत करते थे। वो हमेशा कॉलेज के बारे में अपने नेक ख्यालात का इजहार करते थे। इनका इंतकाल मादर इल्मी के लिए एक शदीद नुकसान है। तलबा और असातिज़ा इनके लिए सोगवार हैं। Important questions. Question number 1. What do you know about the life and achievements of Sir Sahibzada Abdul Qayyum after reading the article The Death of a Great Man? Or what did the contributors to the Khyber General of Islamia College, Peshawar, January 1983 issue write about the beloved personality of Sir Sahibzada Abdul Qayyum? Or in poise and dignity he stood above all around him when he attended the Round Table Conference in London, page 130. This line is quoted in the preface. The lesson entitled The Death of a Great Man describes salient, page number 94, features of Sahibzada Abdul Qayyum's character and his achievements for NWFB. Or, whatever his political creed and whatever the cause of his ministry's downfall, we have nothing but praise for the extraordinary qualities of his head and heart as eminent politician. Page 132. This sentence has been taken from The Death of a Great Man in East and West. State in your own words in detail the extraordinary qualities and contribution of Sir Sahibzada Abdul Qayyum Khan discussed in this essay. Answer. Number 1. Sahibzada Abdul Qayyum Khan. Sahibzada Abdul Qayyum Khan was a beloved personality of the Pathans. He belonged, mane ताल्लुक रखना, to a poor family. He started his career as Naib Tehsildar and rose to the high position of the political agent of Khyber. He took part in the Round Table Conference at London. He represented the Muslims there and also at Delhi and other places. He was a very magnificent, mane azim person. He was strong, with clear features, heavy moustache, mane moonche, and eagle, mane tez, eyes. He was a very far-sighted, mane durandesh man. He had an impressive, mane mutassir kun and dynamic, mane kuwate amal rakhne wala personality. The main features of his character and work are as under. Page number 95. Number 2. Founder of Islamia College. Sahibzada Abdul Qayyum was the founder of Islamia College. He founded it in collaboration, mane qaim kiya, with Sir George Rose Capel at the site of an ancient, mane qadim, Buddhist university. It has become a seat of learning for the people right from Attock up to Afghanistan. So he spent most of his time in educating the Muslims. Number 3. Love for the college. Sahibzada Abdul Qayyum loved the college very much. He considered mane khayal karna, the college, as his own child. He looked after the college as a mother would look after her own son. He frequently, mane aksar, visited the college and saw its buildings, trees, plants and fields cultivated, mane kasht shuda. He always talked to the students, the staff and the principal about the college. He talked even to the malis for the betterment of the college. He took keen, mane gehra interest in the activities, mane sargarmiya of the college. He often participated in the college functions. He made speeches on different occasions to inform, mane matla karna, the students and the teachers of the progress, mane tarakki, of the college. He would listen to the lectures of the professors with full attention. He wanted to see his college to rise to the level of the university, but ill luck would have it. His desire, mane khwahish, could not be fulfilled during his lifetime. However, his dream was realized after his death. Number 4. Political reforms. Sahibzada Abdul Qayyum was a great politician. He caused many reforms. He got 2 installments, mane aksat, of reforms from the British government in a few days. It was only through his efforts, mane koshish, that the British introduced. Page number 96. Reforms in piecemeal. He brought about a synthesis in the English and Pathan practices. As a result, NWFP emerged, mane zahir hona, as a center of politics in India. Number 5. Intelligent and wise. Sahibzada Abdul Qayyum was very intelligent and wise. No one could match his wit and understanding. He surpassed माने बढ़ जाना many leaders in this field. His speech was always rich in wisdom. Number 6. Kind and generous. He was generous माने सखी and kind-hearted माने रहमदिल. He assisted माने मदद करना many poor students with money. The nature माने कुदरत had bestowed माने दुनिया देना him a very courteous personality. His way of talking was very sparkling माने चमकदार and bright. He usually माने आम तौर पर talked to the staff and the principal in a friendly way. He was polite माने बाअखलाक in his conversation. He used a lot of Persian and Pashto proverbs in his talks with others. He was a hospitable माने मेहमान नवाज man. Number 7. General. Sahibzada Abdul Qayyum was a very broad-minded माने वसीउन नज़र man. He had a strong willpower. He was very straightforward, mane belag, and had clear-cut opinions. He died in December 1937. Question number 2. The sky was clouded and the golden hills were black as if nature herself mourned the passing away of one of the greatest men that the frontier had begotten. Page 134. Who said these words and on what occasion? Or describe the important points of the speech of page number 97. Mr. R. L. Holdsworth, which he delivered on 9th December 1937 on the death of Sahibzada Abdul Qayyum. Answer number 1. Important points of speech. Mr. R. L. Holdsworth was the principal of Islamia College, Peshawar. He delivered Mane Dena, a speech on 9th December 1937 at 9 a.m. on the death of Sahibzada Abdul Qayyum. He said the sky was clouded and the golden hills were black as if nature herself mourned mane matam karna, the passing away of one of the greatest men that the frontier had begotten. Number 2. Remembers his last meeting. He remembered mane yaad ki his last meeting with Sahibzada Sahib. When he met him last evening with a few others, he said that he had gone to see Sahibzada Sahib at his residence. Mane Rihaish. Dr. Malik Chaudhry Yunus and Maulana A. Hai were with him. Sahibzada Sahib had been sick for a long time, but he looked in good health, mane sehat, that day. They discussed plans for the silver jubilee of the college and the union building. Sahibzada looked well and talked in his usual sparkling, mane noor afshan, and brilliant, mane shandar way. He used the Persian and Pashto proverbs here and there. He agreed on all matters and details. Then he took them round his estate and told them, pointing towards the hills of Buna, that he was born there. But after an hour he had a stroke and felt giddy. Mane sar chakrana. Soon he became unconscious, mane behosh. Later on he died. Next morning all came to know of his death. Everybody was shocked to hear this news. A lot of people attended his funeral, mane tajheez-o-takfeen, at Topi under a cloudy sky. Page number 98. Number 3. Friendly relations with Sahibzada. Mr. R. L. Holdsworth further said that he had very friendly relations with Sahibzada Sahib and always found him courteous, mane khush khalq. He differed with late Sahibzada Sahib on many occasions, but he never lost his friendship and trust. Number 4. Life of Sahibzada. Sahibzada Abdul Qayyum belonged to a poor family. He started his career as a Naib Tehsildar and rose to the position of political agent of Khyber. He was a great man of frontier. He took part in round-table conferences at London, Delhi and other places. He believed that key to freedom, mane azadi, was education. He was devoted to the college and frequently, mane aksar, visited the college and saw its building, trees, plants and fields. He wanted to see the college rise to the level of university, but his desire, mane khahish, could not be completed during his lifetime. He served the people of the province wholeheartedly. He died in December 1937, a little before the silver jubilee of the college. Page number 98 continued. Chapter 11. A Cold Wind at Kitty Hawk. उर्दू तर्जुमा. ज़ेर नज़र मज़मून में अमेरिका के मशहूर राइट बरादरान का जिक्र है, जिन्होंने 17 दिसंबर 1903 को पहली बार हवा में परवाज़ की. ये तारीखी परवाज़ सिर्फ 12 सेकंड तक जारी रही, मगर परवाज़ ने एक नए दौर का आगाज़ कर दिया. जर्मन ग्लाइडर बाज اوٹوالی نیتھل گلائڈر کے ذریعے سینکڑوں کامیاب اڑان کر چکا تھا۔ گلائڈر کے ایک حادثے میں اس کی ریڑھ کی ہڈی ٹوٹ گئی اور وہ مر گیا۔ امریکہ کے شہر ڈین میں 2 بھائی رہتے تھے، ایک کا نام آروائل رائٹ اور دوسرے کا نام پیج نمبر 99 ولبر رائٹ تھا۔ ان کا باپ پادری تھا۔ وہ بائی سائیکلوں کا کاروبار کرتے تھے۔ انہیں ہوائی پرواز سے گہرا لگاؤ تھا۔ انہوں نے بھی نتھال کے حادثے اور موت کی خبر کو بڑے غور سے پڑھا۔ انہوں نے طے کیا کہ اب تک حاصل شدہ معلومات کا مطالعہ کیا جائے۔ انہوں نے پچر، پرمیکسم، آرکیٹوشانو، رینگلے، کلیمنٹ آرڈر اور دوسرے لوگوں کے تجربات کے بارے میں معلومات حاصل کیں۔ سب سے زیادہ معلومات انہیں نتھال کے تجربات سے حاصل ہوئیں۔ ان کے خیال میں لیلی نتھال کی غلطی یہ تھی کہ اس نے گلائڈر کو متوازن نہ کیا تھا۔ انہوں نے تجربات کے لیے کٹی ہاک کو منتخب کیا تاکہ کوئی انہیں دیکھ نہ سکے اور مذاق اڑانے والا کوئی نہ ہو۔ 3 سال کی محنت کے بعد انہوں نے ایک 12 ہارس پاور کا انجن تیار کیا۔ اس کا وزن 152 پاؤنڈ تھا۔ یہ پیٹرول سے چلتا تھا۔ دسمبر 1903 میں انہوں نے پہلی بار طیارہ اڑانے کا پروگرام بنایا، مگر ابھی کئی ایک دشواریاں تھیں جن کا حل کرنا باقی تھا۔ آخر 17 دسمبر کو انہوں نے باری باری پرواز کی۔ پہلی تاریخی پرواز آروائل نے کی۔ وہ 12 سیکنڈ تک اڑا۔ اس کے بعد دلبر 1 منٹ تک اڑا اور اس نے 850 فٹ کا فاصلہ طے کیا۔ 3 سال تک اس پرواز کی دنیا کو خبر نہ ہوئی۔ آخر 1906 میں امریکہ کے ایک رسالہ سائنٹیفک امریکن نے کٹی ہاک کی مکمل رویداد شائع کی۔ یوں دنیا کو اس تجربے کا علم ہوا۔ 1908 میں وہ اپنا طیارہ لے کر فرانس گئے۔ اس کے بعد واشنگٹن گئے اور حکومت کی ایما پر اپنے فن کا مظاہرہ کیا۔ لوگ حیران رہ گئے۔ دلبر نے 45 سال کی عمر میں وفات پائی۔ اس کا دوسرا بھائی 1948 میں 77 سال کی عمر میں مرا۔ اس نے اپنی زندگی میں آواز کی رفتار سے تیز رفتار پرواز کرنے والے طیاروں کو دیکھ لیا تھا۔ Important question. Question number 1. The news was read with special concern in the back room of a bicycle shop in Dayton, Ohio, belonging to the brothers Orville and Wilbur Wright, page 100. This sentence is taken from A Cold Wind at Kitty Hawk, who were Orville and Wilbur Wright, and which, page number 100, news they read with special concern. Tell their story in your own words, or describe briefly the history of aviation. Answer. Number 1. The history of aviation. Otto Lilienthal, a German, was the first pioneer in the flying. He completed hundreds of successful glider flights. He died in an accident on August 1896 near Berlin. He said before his death that every work needed sacrifices. Mane Qurbaniyan. Number 2. Wright brothers. 2 American brothers read this news with great interest. Their names were Wilbur Wright and Orville Wright. They decided to collect all the required information about air flights and then proceed on with the experiments of flying an aeroplane. They studied the works and experiments of British, French, German, and American pioneers like Percy Sinclair Pilher, Hiram Maxim, Langley, Clement Ader, Octave Chanute, Samuel Pierpont, and others. They came to the conclusion, man natija, that Otto could not succeed because he did not know the laws of the pressure, mane dabao, of the air. Page number 100 continued. He had not balanced his glide. They had to do 2 things. One was to balance the machine, and the other was to get an engine which should be light enough to give power and not to make the plane weighty. Number 3. Experiments. They continued experiments and were successful in the long run. They built 12 horsepower engine which had a, page number 101, weight of only 152 pounds. They balanced it. They brought their plane to Kitty Hawk in North Carolina in December 1903. A strong and cold wind was blowing at the time. Orville and Wilbur tossed. Orville won the toss. He sat in the plane whereas Wilbur ran with it, balancing the wings. Soon the aeroplane was lifted from the ground and flew for 12 seconds. It covered a distance of 120 feet. Now it was the turn of Wilbur to pilot the plane. He covered a distance of 200 feet. Then Orville made a third attempt. Wilbur covered more than 850 feet in about a minute in the fourth attempt. The Wright brothers demonstrated their new machine in Le Mans, France in 1908. Then they demonstrated it for the government at Fort Myer near Washington. Question number 2. The Wrights worked slowly, painstakingly, and thoroughly. 3 years after Lilienthal's death, their first small scale model of the warping wings machine, a glider, was ready for testing. Page 139. These sentences have been taken from E. Larson's essay, A Cold Wind at Kitty Hawk. Describe in your own words the experiments of the Wright brothers that led to the invention of the final successful aeroplane. Or, what do you know about the successful experiments of Wright brothers in the field of aviation? Or, what does the title A Cold Wind at Kitty Hawk, page number 102, signify? What importance is linked with this name in the history of aviation? Answer. Number 1. Experiments of Wright brothers. Otto Lilienthal belonged to Germany. He completed hundreds of successful, mane kamyab, glider flights. One day his glider was 50 feet high. It was caught by a gust of strong wind. It fell down. Lilienthal broke his backbone and died. Number 2. The Wright brothers. Two brothers named Orville Wright and Wilbur Wright lived in USA. Their father was a clergyman, mani padri. They ran a bicycle shop. They were fond of flying. They read about Lilienthal's death. They were of the opinion that Lilienthal had ignored, mane nazarandaz karna, the pressure, mane dabav, of the air. They said that the plane should be very strong so that it might not be overturned, mane ulatna, by the wind. They decided to collect all the information about the air flight. They studied the works and experiments of Pilcher, Hiram Maxim, Octave Chignot, Samuel Pierpont, Langley, Clement Ader, and others. They also learned a lesson from the experiment of Lilienthal. They worked with patience on their scheme from 1896 to 1903. There were two major things which they had to do. One was to balance, mane mutawazin karna, the machine, and the other was to get an engine which should be light enough to give power. They found no such engine. At last, they themselves designed and built a 12 horsepower engine which had a weight of 152 pounds. Then came the time of testing. Page number 103. Number 3. Flight at Kitty Hawk. They went to a suitable place, Kitty Hawk, for the last experiment in December 1903. They decided to leave the efforts forever if it would fail. They had to do a few things before the final go. A cold wind was blowing at the speed of 27 miles per hour. They reached the open place on 17th December with their machine. They tossed and Orville won the toss. He sat in the plane. Wilbur ran with it, balancing the wings. Soon it rose and flew for 12 seconds. It covered a distance, mane fasla, of 120 feet. Then Wilbur sat in the plane. It flew for 1 minute and covered the distance of 200 feet. It was the historic, mane tarikhi, day in the history of air aviation. Number 4. Flight in France. The two brothers demonstrated, mane muzahira karna, their flight in France. Then they went to Washington to demonstrate their flight. The people were wonderstruck to see it. Oliver died at the age of 45. Wilbur died at the age of 77 in 1948. He saw aeroplane crossing sound barrier. Number 5. First to fly the aeroplane. The Wright brothers were the first to fly the aeroplane. The place where they flew was Kitty Hawk, a silent place in the state of North Carolina in USA. It was the 17th December 1903. The cold wind was blowing there. The essay takes its title from the scene on this historic day. Chapter number 12. Anything a horse can do. उर्दू तर्जुमा. कदीम ज़माने में चीनी लोग एक खिलौना बनाते थे. इस खिलौने पर एक पर होता था जो ज़ोर से दबाने पर हवा में उड़ने लगता था. इस खिलौने को देखकर साइंसदानों को हेलीकॉप्टर बनाने का ख्याल आया। कई साइंसदानों ने कोशिश की और तजुर्बात किए। 1907 में एक पेज नंबर 104 फ्रांसीसी साइंसदान ने एक 24 हॉर्स पावर की मशीन बनाई। इसमें 2 पर लगे थे, लेकिन यह मशीन सिर्फ 5 फुट ऊंची जा सकी। हेलीकॉप्टर बनाने का सहरा एक रूसी स्कोर्स्की के सर है। स्कोर्स्की को हवाबाजी का बहुत शौक था। इसी मकसद के लिए वो फ्रांस गया और पेरिस के एक फ़िज़ाई क्लब में शामिल हो गया, लेकिन वहाँ उसकी मालूमात और तजुर्बात में कोई इजाफा ना हुआ। वो वापस रूस आ गया और रेलवे में डिज़ाइंस की हैसियत से नौकरी कर ली। इसने रेलवे के एक अफसर से जहाज़ बनाने की इजाज़त मांगी, जो मिल गई। इसने एक खूबसूरत हवाई जहाज़ ग्रैंड बनाया, जो पहली बार 1913 में उड़ा। इसमें 4 इंजन थे। इसको 2 पायलट चलाते थे। इसमें रोशनी, आरामगाह और गुसल खाना का इंतज़ाम भी था। जंग अज़ीम अव्वल के दौरान इसने जंगी जहाज़ों का पूरा बेड़ा तैयार किया। इन जहाज़ों ने जर्मन पर 400 हमले किए। 1917 के इनकलाब के बाद स्कोर्स्की अमेरिका चला गया और चंद ही सालों में अमेरिका के बेहतरीन जहाज़ साज़ों में से एक बन गया। उसने 1931 में एक जहाज़ S-40 बनाया। इस जहाज़ ने बहरे ओकियानूस अबूर करने का कारनामा अंजाम दिया। स्कोर्स्की का मकसद हेलीकॉप्टर बनाना था। इसने तजुर्बात जारी रखे। जब जापानियों ने पर्ल हार्बर पर बमबारी की तो वो अपनी मशीन मंजर आम पर ले आया। उसका तजर्बा कामयाब हो गया। जहाज़ एक परिंदे की मानिंद उड़ने लगा। उसने और मेहनत की, बाद में उसके नक़ाइस दूर किए। फिर इसने अमेरिका के फ़ज़ाई अफसरों के सामने इसका मुज़ाहरा किया। इसको देखकर एक अमरीकी अफसर ने कहा, पेज नंबर 105 आंसर नंबर 1 हेलीकॉप्टर। So far as the idea of the helicopter is concerned, the Chinese people knew it as a toy. A propeller was pushed, mane dhakelna, up in a screw, and it was known as the Chinese toy. The idea of helicopter was taken from this toy by 2 Frenchmen. Number 2. Scientists. Many scientists tried to make this toy like helicopter which could go straight, mane seedha, into the air. An American and an Italian also tried, but they could not succeed. A Frenchman succeeded partially, mane juzvi. He lifted himself and his friend 5 feet above the ground, mane zameen, by his helicopter, in which 2 rotors, mane par, turned in opposite, mane mutazad, direction, mane simit. But Skorsky, a Russian, succeeded in building a helicopter. Number 3. Skorsky. Skorsky was interested in flying. He went to Paris to get training. He did not gain much. He failed to get practical training. He came back to his country. He joined the railway as a designer. He talked to his officers about building an aeroplane. His officers agreed, and Skorsky built the Grand, a wonder, in 1913, after the First World War. He went to America. He got the citizenship, mane shahriyat, of the country and started his work. In 1931, he made a S-40 aeroplane that crossed the Atlantic Ocean, mane Bahre Atlantic, with only 2 engines. But his aim was to build a helicopter. He continued his work and built a helicopter secretly. He tested, page number 106, it at a Bridgeport and Connecticut. This helicopter flew and resisted in the air successfully. US Army was interested in the helicopter. So Skorsky built a big helicopter and his pilot demonstrated mane muzahira karna it before the army officers. A major said that it worked like a horse. The helicopter is very useful in war and peace times. It carries the soldiers and civilians from one place to another. It also carries goods from one place to another. Question number 2. Helicopter as toys were known to the ancient Chinese. Throughout that century, inventors tried to make that toy into a real flying machines. Page 143. The above remark is about Igor Skorsky and has been taken from Anything a Horse Can Do. Relate in about 3 pages of your answer book the success story of Skorsky from the time he migrated to America. Or What happened to him during the first half dozen years in the New World is the kind of story so dear to the American hearts, the success story of poor immigrant who carves out his niche at the top of sheer doggedness, single-mindedness, and optimism. Page 146. This line has been taken from Anything a Horse Can Do. Relate the story of Skorsky and his invention of helicopter. Page number 107. The astonishing thing about Scorsese's 1941 helicopter was that it was one of the most perfect prototypes ever to emerge from the inventor's workshop. Page 147. This sentence has been taken from Anything a Horse Can Do by E. Larson. Give an account of the invention and uses of helicopter. Or, the helicopter has fully borne out its inventor's promise and predictions that it could prove to be a faithful servant of the peaceful progress of humanity. Page 69. This sentence has been taken from Anything a Horse Can Do. Relate all you have learned about Skorsky and his efforts to invent the helicopter. Or, describe in detail the works of Skorsky till the building of a helicopter. Answer. Number 1. Works of Skorsky. In olden days, the people of China made a toy. It looked like helicopter. The propeller, mane machine ka pankha, turned quickly when it was pushed up. Then it flew in the air. It was very popular even in the West in the beginning of the 20th century. The scientists took the idea of making helicopter from this toy. Many scientists tried to make it but did not succeed in the fullest sense. A French man succeeded. Page number 108. Partially, माने जुज़वी तौर पर. He lifted himself and his friend 5 feet above the ground by his helicopter, in which two rotors, माने गर्दिश करने वाला पर, turned in opposite, माने मुतज़ाद directions, माने simit. It was the Russian scientist Skorsky who succeeded in making a helicopter. His father was a professor of psychology. Skorsky was interested in flying. He went to Paris and joined a club to learn about aviation. He was disappointed. He came back to Russia and joined the railway as a designer. He talked about building an aeroplane to his officer. His officer agreed. Mane razamand hona. He made a big airliner Grand in 1931. It had 4 engines. It could carry passengers in a luxurious way. Soon the First World War broke out and Skorsky had to build a full fleet of 4 engines bombers which raided Germany 400 times. Number 2. Building of helicopter. Skorsky left Russia in 1917 due to unavoidable circumstances, mane halat. He came to America. He started his work. In 1931, he made S-40 aeroplane that crossed the Atlantic Ocean, Behre Okeanus, with only 2 engines. But his main object was to build a helicopter. He continued making experiments. He made a machine. He tested it at a Bridgeport, Connecticut, USA. Shortly after the bombardment at Pearl Harbor by the Japanese in December 1941, this helicopter flew and resisted in the air successfully. He was very glad, mane khush. The helicopter performed wonderful, mane ajeebo-gharib, tricks, mane kartab. The pilot made it hover and picked up a brass, mane pital, ring from the top of a pole. It also picked up a bag of raw eggs. The people appreciated very much. 1. Page number 109. American officer said, "It worked like a horse. Anything that a horse could do could be done by a helicopter." Number 3. Advantages of helicopter. It is useful, mane mufid, both in war and peacetime. It is a very good invention, mane ijad. It saves the lives, mane zindagiyan, of the mountaineers, mane koh paimao. It rescues, mane bachana, the people from flood-stricken, mane salab-zada areas. It carries the wounded, mane zakhmi, to the hospital. It carries soldiers, civilians and goods from one place to another. Chapter number 13. The First Man in Space. उर्दू तर्जुमा. यूरी गैगरिन पहला शख्स था जिसने खला में परवाज़ की. وہ ایک روسی باشندہ تھا۔ خلا میں بھیجنے سے پہلے اسے سخت قسم کی تربیت دی گئی۔ اسے پیراشوٹ کے ذریعے اترنے کی تربیت دی گئی۔ پیراشوٹ کے ذریعے زمین، سمندروں اور درختوں پر اترنا، سمندر سے تیر کر باہر آنا، زمین سے بہت کم فاصلہ پر پیراشوٹ کھولنا، قلابازیاں کھا کر نیچے اترنا وغیرہ وغیرہ۔ اس کا سر چکرانے لگتا اور آنکھیں درد کرنے لگتیں۔ بعد ازاں اسے گرم کمرے میں بند کر دیا گیا، جہاں وہ پسینے میں شرابور ہو گیا۔ اسے ایک کمرے میں بٹھا دیا گیا، کمرے سے ہوا خارج کر دی گئی، یہاں تک کہ وہ بے ہوش ہو گیا۔ اس کے بعد دوبارہ ہوا کمرے میں داخل کر دی گئی۔ اس دوران اس سے کہا جاتا رہا کہ وہ اپنا نام لکھتا رہے۔ اسے ایک تھرتھرانے والی مشین پر لٹایا گیا، جو 1 منٹ میں 200 بار تھرتھراتی تھی۔ اسے ایک گھومنے والی کرسی پر باندھ دیا گیا اور خوب تیزی سے گھمایا گیا۔ اس کے جسم میں عجیب و غریب احساسات ہوتے تھے اور سانس لینے میں بھی دقت محسوس ہوتی تھی۔ اسے یادداشت کے سوالات بھی دیے جاتے تھے، جن میں غلط اور صحیح جواب بنا کر اسے پریشان کیا جاتا تھا۔ اسے ہوائی جہاز ٹیڑھا اڑا کر، غوطہ لگا کر بے وزنی کے چند سیکنڈ کا سامنا کرایا گیا۔ اسی طرح اور تربیت بھی دی گئی۔ یوری گیگرن کو واسٹک نامی جہاز میں خلا میں بھیجا گیا۔ خلا میں اسے ہوا کا دباؤ محسوس، پیج نمبر 110 ہوا۔ اسے یوں لگا جیسے اس کا جسم بھاری ہوتا جا رہا ہے اور اس کا سر چکرا رہا ہو۔ اس وقت اس کے جہاز کی رفتار 18,000 میل فی گھنٹہ تھی۔ وہ زمین سے 200 میل کی اونچائی پر تھا۔ جلد ہی ہوا کے دباؤ میں کمی ہو گئی۔ اب اس نے زمین کے گرد چکر لگانے شروع کر دیے۔ اس نے زمین والوں کو پیام بھیجا کہ زمین بڑی خوبصورت نظر آ رہی ہے۔ اب اس کے وزن میں نمایاں کمی ہو گئی۔ اس کو تمام چیزیں اڑتی ہوئی دکھائی دے رہی تھیں۔ اس نے گانا سنا، خود بھی گایا۔ اسے پیاس محسوس ہوئی، پانی پیا۔ سورج اور ستارے روشن دکھائی دے رہے تھے۔ اب اس نے زمین کی طرف آنا شروع کیا۔ پیراشوٹ کھل گئے اور وہ زمین پر اتر گیا۔ وہ اس جگہ نہ اتر سکا جہاں سے اڑا تھا۔ وہ کچھ فاصلے پر کھیتوں میں اترا۔ کھیت میں ایک بوڑھی عورت کام کر رہی تھی۔ پہلے تو وہ اس عجیب و غریب چیز کو دیکھ کر خوفزدہ ہوئی، لیکن جب یوری گیگرن باہر آیا اور روسی زبان میں بات کی تو اس کا ڈر ختم ہو گیا۔ اس کے بعد کچھ ٹریکٹر ڈرائیور بھاگتے ہوئے آئے اور اس کا خیر مقدم کیا۔ یہ پرواز 109 منٹ تک جاری رہی۔ پیج نمبر 110 continued. Important questions. Question number 1. Yuri Gagarin, the man who was suffering all these terrible things, was not being tortured. He had asked for the experience and he could go free any moment he liked. He was training in to be a spaceman. Page 114. This sentence has been taken from the essay The First Man in Space by Patrick Pringle. Narrate in your words the torturous ordeal he went through to become a spaceman. Or, they took him up in an aeroplane and flew him high enough for a parachute drop. What have I got to do this time? He asked. Page 157. Page number 111. These sentences have been taken from The First Man in Space. Give details of the journey into space. Or, describe in about 3 pages of your answer book the training that Yuri Gagarin received to prepare him for his journey in space. Or, many times he was thrown from the aeroplane with the help of a parachute. Moreover, sometime he would fall in an ocean and swim ashore, or he would fall on the top of a tree in a jungle. Sometimes he came down screwing, sometimes he came down like a heavy ball, till his parachute opened at very little distance from the earth. This paragraph has been taken from the essay The First Man in Space. Give an account of the practices that Yuri Gagarin had to go before going on the first historic flight into space. Or, it was the worst of all. His body started spinning at a great speed, and he felt as if he was in the grip of a great force that drove him through the air like a screw. Yuri Gagarin, the man who was suffering all these terrible things, was not being tortured. Page number 111. This sentence is taken from the essay First Man in Space by Patrick Pringle. Why was all this being done to Yuri Gagarin if he was not tortured? Page number 112. Or, After many months of training, he was at last ready for the journey into space. Page 160. Describe in detail the training that Yuri Gagarin received for his journey into space. Or, today's drop is a corkscrew drop, he was told. It was the worst of all. His body started spinning at great speed, and he felt as if he was in the grip of a great force that drove him through the air like a screw. His head felt very heavy. A sharp cutting pain struck his eyes. Page number 157. These sentences have been taken from First Man in Space in East and West. Discuss in detail, in your own words, the experiences of the first man in space. Or, what were the practices that Yuri Gagarin had to do before going on the first historic flight into space? Or, try to bring back to your mind the first part of Patrick Pringle's story of the first man in space and describe 6 of the endurance exercise Yuri Gagarin had to do before he was sent into space. Length of the answer about 3 pages of your answer book. Or describe the story, The First Man in Space.